So tonight we're going to be talking about leveling up your presence in the WordPress space. Let's go around the room. Russ, we're going to get you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Do I have to?
Tell me something that I don't know about you. How about that?
Tell you something that you don't know about me?
That you're okay sharing with the public.
I mean, I'm okay sharing everything. I have no secrets, my man. So I started off building MySpace layouts. I've been in a number of semi-hardcore screamo metal bands. I've filled in for a bunch of different bands coming to town. Music is a very big passion of mine. I don't know, Jason, if you knew that, but something that you don't know is I have never played the recorder. You know, in school when you have to play hot cross buns.
How did you escape that?
Because my mommy loves me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're still doing the MySpace thing, huh? How are you making tens of dollars with that, or what?
You know what? You know what's sad is I have so many domains, and I don't have designyourmyspace.com or anything. I really wish I would have had one of those, but I never. I might go buy one right now just to say I have one. You know,
backdate the posts.
Yeah, the hardest thing about it was if you wanted to hide your comments, it's just that comment on the CSS and it's display none. That took me forever to learn. And then this girl one time, she goes, you can still see the comments. And she taught me how to view the source. And I was like, oh, dude. I have so many MySpace jokes. It's killer.
So instead of screenshots are forever, the source code's forever?
Not the source code's forever, but with CSS you can hide things, but it's still being output by the server on the back end, so it's still going to be there.
Good to know.
What about you? What about you, Bridget? What do people don't know about you that you could share?
What do people don't know about me? I share too much.
I
did start on MySpace though because I am a musician, and that was the place that let you have 4 tracks for free. So that's how I got to social media. I was trying to pander and sell my CD. Just still have 200 of in my closet 10 years ago or whatever.
You want to hear
12 years ago.
Do you want to hear a crazy thing about MySpace?
Yeah.
So a lot of bands actually started naming their bands with the letter A because you would get discovered on MySpace quicker than if you had a band with a Z. And so all of our bands were underscore. And we shot up straight up. And people were like, you guys are smart. And we're like, no, we just know how the internet works.
Well, or the yellow pages, AAA plumbing.
Is there an underscore section of the yellow pages?
There's numbers.
That's how you bring the phone book back.
Yeah, I haven't seen a phone book in 10 years, so I'm not totally sure.
I have to stand on the phone book. That's the only way I can smack a bitch.
I do eat too late on Tuesdays. I need to stop at In-N-Out and Carlsbad on the way home.
That was is In-N-Out a sponsor? Because that was a major plug.
They don't get as much exposure as Diet Coke gets.
Oh, man.
How about Coca-Cola Vanilla?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I went over to Blab real quick, and I turned on the event that we had going over there, just so people will show up here. They'll be able to see it and then be able to know, oh, I should come show up over here. So I actually have a few people that have joined over there, so I'm just shooting over the link so they know, hey, you should probably come over here instead.
Forward the mail, return to sender.
Yeah, we are forwarding the mail.
So,
address unknown.
So Jason, tell me something about you that I don't know.
Ooh, okay.
I know it's hard, right? It's very hard.
It is. So I used to work at Lunar Pages web hosting a long time ago, and I was their tier 3 support person where I took care of all of the calls that the tier 2 guys didn't want to take, and the calls that the tier 1 guys had no idea what was going on. They're like, what's a C name? What's an A record? What's a CGI-bin?
Is that how it works? It goes 1, 2, 3. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I would get these calls, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that these people having, you know, these ridiculously hard, you know, times. And it's funny because I'd hear some of these questions that people would call, and I'm like, why didn't tier 2 take care of that? Why didn't tier 1 take care of that? Like, what's going on here? But when my phone rang, I knew I wouldn't be doing anything for several hours because I'd be helping some lady in her cat blog try to get her email working again. Because when you're a web host like that, you take care of absolutely everything from email to FTP to SSH to everything. I mean, they give you all the stuff. And then to top it off, it was cPanel, which makes me never want to use cPanel ever again. Which when I heard that SiteGround was using cPanel, I was like, oh no. So I got an account with SiteGround, and I set up a site.
And that 5 times fast.
And I started playing around with it.
SiteGround.
I started playing around with it a little bit, and ends up that they actually fixed a lot of the issues regarding the whole like add-on domains versus domains. And I actually remember dealing with this stuff that was just like, why is this set up this way? And you know, you never want to be the guy who has to manage the issues that are occurring because of the software that you guys are using. You know what I mean?
So
sucks.
So I have 2 questions for you. Number 1, how long did it take you to become a level 3 tier support guy? Because, you know, if you had to go through 1 to 2, how long did it take? And then number 2, Jason, is how do you feel about collaborating on a coffee table book where it's just things that devs say, like, how come tier 2 didn't support that?
So how long did it take?
Book that's only on Slack.
Right. You have to type in /book and then /page change page.
It's a coffee table book that's only a PDF.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't help
myself. I worked there.
That's only Kindle.
So I think I worked there for like a year and a half, and the family that owns the company is actually they're actually in La Habra, which is like the next city over, and they're like this crazy biker gang family that ran the business, and it was really interesting to see how that whole thing was set up, and how like the organization was ran and stuff, and it was ran really, really well. But they moved around a few times, and then I think they ended up moving down to San Diego. Somebody bought somebody, and then they ended up being in San Diego. So I'll even take a picture of it and post it on Instagram or something. But there's like a huge, one of those monster-sized Winnebago crazy toy hauler type things.
Yeah.
That says Lunar Pages across the side of it.
I thought you were going to tell me that all their hosting boxes were in Winnebago.
I was thinking.
They were at first. He told me that they were at first.
Oh, server farm.
No, so their server farm is just a KOA campground.
They're like, we're co-located. It's right in the bedroom next door.
Their servers are distributed.
They're like, hold on, sir, we're moving you from the bathroom to the bedroom. Hold on. We're gonna port your domain over. Hold on.
No wonder why email never works.
Let me flush the cache.
Yeah, it goes right in.
Flush the cache.
It goes right. Maybe that's where the sound from dial-up came. It's just like. All right. So back on topic.
Yeah, back on topic. So that's a perfect kind of segue to like leveling up to it. So we hosted a lot of company, or rather people's websites, and some of them were running like Mambo or all these different CMSs.
I was on Mambo number 5.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I need to know how to use all of these. So I ended up starting off with Mambo, and then a little bit of Drupal, and then Mambo turned into Joomla, correct? Or is it the other way around? I don't remember which one switched into which.
I think that's correct.
And then after that, I started using WordPress, and I got married around the same time that I was working there, and so I built my first like site using a CMS on that. Before all that stuff, I worked at this company called ODC.net, and they were an internet provider, and they actually provided not only just internet access, but they also provided the ability to host your website there. So ODC, was one of those things where they gave you a shell account, and they're like, okay, have at it. And the only thing we ever used a shell account for was to hop on IRC and goof around and talk to people all over the world. But I learned a lot about how to deal with CMSs as well as, website type stuff. And it was pretty neat to kind of start with something, just like what Cheryl's saying in the chat. Start with something like Mambo or Joomla, because the second you switch over to WordPress, you're like, oh my gosh, this is what a real CMS looks like. Because Mambo and Joomla remind me a lot of like PHP BB, which is like, it's horrible. It still looks like that. I can't believe that thing still looks like that.
It does. It does look like that.
So I spoke a whole bunch.
Yeah. That is by far one of the most I've actually heard you speak. Like,
about yourself, yes.
Yeah. Well, no, because normally on the other show, like, he's just the guy that's like, he's like the producer clicking buttons, like he's that guy behind the radio. But like, I love learning about Jason so much because he's like, oh yeah, like I had this invite, like, when Amazon was like still a tree, and it's like, what?
Amazon was still a tree.
Yeah, so I started out building MySpace band layouts for like a lot of bands in Reno and Las Vegas. And I was using the blog feature on MySpace, and I was blogging about it. My buddy was like, you're really funny. You should check out this thing. So he threw me on Blogger, and Blogger was okay. And then he goes, here, you should check out this thing called WordPress.com. So he puts me on WordPress.com, and I wrote I was kind of Mark Zuckerberg in the way. Like, I would just be like, I can't figure out this thing. Right? Like, that's all the post would be. I wasn't actually like blogging like, imagine, I wasn't Chris Lemo, okay? I wasn't like, imagine you have a car. It was like that. And then after I got to a certain place with that, he's like, the same friend, he goes, did you know that you can install WordPress on your own.com? And from there, the sky's the limit. And I've been doing that ever since. So MySpace and Dreamweaver, Macro Media Dreamweaver.
Yeah, Dreamweaver.
Oh yeah.
That's more where I came from.
And Adobe Fireworks. Those three got me to where I am now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have something to edit that HTML on, and for me, I started editing HTML using Homesite on Windows, and that was like my editor of choice was using something called Homesite, and they ended up getting bought out by Macromedia, who owns Dreamweaver at the time. So yeah, those were fun days, and dealing with MySpace stuff was always just ridiculous because no one ever learned HTML or CSS. Well, not CSS, but HTML at all from MySpace. They all learned like how to do these ridiculous overrides that, I remember seeing people putting like, if you put important 3 times, it fixes it. And if you do this.
No. It was way worse because they're like, here's how web pages are built. Let me introduce you to tables. And you're like, oh, okay.
Bridget, I totally cut you off earlier. What were you going to say?
I was going to say this is the Throwback Thursday version of WPblab.
Right.
You guys are going so far back, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
So, I mean, everybody has a story, right? Because Chris Lema always says that you're 5 minutes ahead and 5 minutes behind somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that telling a story simply as, here's how I started, I think that kind of sets the expectation that we're trying to lay here of,
no, I'm with you. I was just making a joke because you're here and things are usually funnier.
Are you saying I'm old? Is that what you're saying?
No, you're. That's it. I quit.
So leveling up with WordPress, I mean, there's so many avenues to start with, right? Because I mean, whether you're a dev or you're a blogger or you're managing your construction company or you have a concrete business, I mean, something along those lines, there's so many avenues. So I mean, Bridget, where do you think a good place to start talking about? I'm only asking you because you're still in this world of leveling yourself up. I mean, Jason and I still are now, but it's like a whole separate stratosphere. So I mean, where do you think, where you are now, where do you think your next move is going to be to start leveling yourself up?
That's Sully. My next move?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't really want to learn to code. Like, I did take HTML a million years ago and used Dreamweaver. But and I did take some CSS, but like I can't see that in my mind. I can't read it and then see it.
Oh, okay.
So that's just not me. I'm more of a writer. I'm more interested in human behavior. That's why I'm in marketing. I mean, to me, leveling up, wait till you read my 0 to admin article that's coming out on givewp.com. It's the first technical article I ever wrote. And Matt said I did a good job, so I'm
you actually wrote one the other day on WordPress because it showed up as a sponsored thing, and it was about like 5 plugins.
Oh yeah,
and I was highly impressed. Impressed with that.
Yeah, well, I started this like they dropped me to the 12-foot end of the pool. Okay, so I went from like I just barely built my site to let's review plugins.
That's what happens when you work with like hardcore WordPress developers like Matt and Devin, because like if you go start like working at like Modern Tribe, like to do the events calendar, they'll be like, okay, like you're gonna start doing this, but when you're at like WebDev or WP Engine or something, they're like, listen, you're gonna do everything from the command line, and we need you to fix this. Go.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm ever going to be doing support because I don't have the patience and or anything really that technical. I really have no desire to ever build a website again. And
that's interesting.
Well, here's the thing. I don't like people.
She said I don't like people. All right.
Like it's just so hard to.
Bridget doesn't want to do support because she doesn't like people, but yet you're trying to teach people how to become better. So
I just say like I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. I can't visualize things. That was the funny version. But no.
Bridget likes to have some kind of intermediate firewall between her and somebody, and then she's fine.
Yeah, I always tell my boss Jason Cannell, I said, your sales is the front end and marketing's the back end. So I'm like the evil conspiracy person going, oh, we should write about this and we should do that. I'm more of a strategy. I'm interested in behavior. I do care about people. I shouldn't have said that, but it was funny. I couldn't resist. I can't resist a good line. So anyway, the thing is, like when I originally learned CSS, a bunch of people were like, build me a website. I'm like, okay. And then they gave me like their hex codes for the color or whatever. And then it was this big argument about orange. I go, this is why I don't want to do it. It's like my brother-in-law is an interior designer. I have furniture that got rejected. That's furniture I have. Like, it's the same concept. Like somebody thinks they like it, then they don't like it. Then I could never deal with that.
Yeah.
That part, that would frustrate me. So I'm not sure what I would be doing next level. I mean, I'm already so far over what I think I should be doing. I already feel so.
I think you're like
being overwhelmed.
I think you're like an iceberg. The part of you that we can see right now, you're like that part above the water. But like, I think you know so much more that like 90% of your mass is below that water, and you could like. I mean, I know global warming exists, but all I'm saying is like I think you're gonna discover that you can do so much more with WordPress, and you didn't even understand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna be coding in PHP anytime soon and making plugins or anything, but.
Well, so I think that's a beautiful way to segue into this, because you don't have to know PHP. Here's the thing, Bridget. Okay, is when you look at a blog post, okay, and you see the title, you don't have to know how to pull the title from the database by joining tables from the database. Yeah. You just have to know how to copy and paste the title,
right,
and the content and the footer. Like, you don't have to. I think that's going to be a great step for you. Just understanding, like, when you see a blog post, like, oh, they're using, the title, or they're using the excerpt, or they're using. I think when you look at it like that,
yeah.
I think that could be a wonderful next step for you.
Well, I was a secretary, so I understand the concept of a database.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying.
But I don't. But as far as like.
Actually,
$sign get _ something with parentheses, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, that little thing of code that just says the title is actually in the back end of the core files of WordPress is actually pulling information from the database and storing it in this variable and into this function. You don't have to go that far. You
Right.
just have to know, like when you're reading wordimpress.com and you see a blog title, that it's called the title.
I like that it's something obvious.
Oh, it's completely obvious. When you're like, how do I get the header? It's like the header.
Header?
Yeah, header PHP, like.
Oh,
Pretty much everything is the underscore or get underscore.
So-
That's it. That's all you need to know. And is underscore, like that's all this stuff's written in English. It's written in plain English.
Okay.
Or it's like, how do I get the admin URL? WP admin URL? Like.
Da, da, da.
Okay.
It's so simple. It's ridiculous.
So-
It's funny because I remember I'll do a quick little Google search, or I'll look on the codex or whatever, and I'll search for, like you're saying, get the admin or whatever. And I'll type that in there, and then it replies back with like, that's the answer. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, apparently somebody was thinking, okay, how do I SEO the heck out of this function name?
Right?
And then they did,
No, it's way worse. You're like, okay, how do I do this thing? And then you just put WordPress title, and it's like, oh, here's everything you need to know about how to hack it and how to like add in parameters inside of it. You're just like, ugh. So
it's no joke, Bridget. It's like, it's that simple. Like, there's the codex for getting the title. It's the underscore title. Like, we're not joking around here. Like, that's literally.
So you're serious? Well, maybe I don't know.
No.
I used to teach algebra, so.
And then you're like, oh, but I just want the title. Okay, well, it's get underscore title. Boom, there's your get underscore title, and that's what spits out.
So actually, one of my favorite parts about WordPress is actually searching for things like the title and the content stuff. And I watched this video that's on pippinplugins.com, and he was teaching us how to build an Ajax backend for like a plugin. And so he was like, hold on, I don't remember this. And so he brings up Google Chrome, and he starts searching. And now I know how Pippin Williamson starts searching for things. And that's my example of leveling up my WordPress search, is because I saw how an amazing, talented developer like Pippin starts going about searching for things.
Yeah, to me, like, I guess for me, leveling up would be to just understand the space more. But like I said, I got thrown in.
You're putting it on a pedestal. You don't need to know that. Like, seriously, like, you need to Google the WordPress cheat sheet. Oh my God, that's where you need to start. The WordPress cheat sheet, and like make a poster that's like 5,000 by 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And like just look at it every day for like 3 minutes, and eventually that's gonna burn into your head, and you're gonna be like, oh, it's the title.
Well, I mean, because I write about all this stuff, I'm immersing myself in it. That's why I call it the immersion program. I actually wrote about 75% of an article that Devin's finishing called "So You Want to Build a WordPress Plugin," just from things I learned. So I'm learning, like, to me, just to be a better writer about the things that matter to WordPress would be leveling up.
I haven't
for my job.
I haven't seen this PDF that I just posted in the chat in probably like in like 10 years. But like now that I see it, I'm like, I used to stare at that every single day.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And the thing is once you start figuring out some of these things, test yourself. There's actually websites that you can go to where you can do a test where it's like, if you're trying to find how to get the title, what do you do?
Jason just turned WordPress into high school. Like, okay, class, now let's give you like an example.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, so for me, everybody has their own mileage, and it's gonna vary. But for me, one of the very first things I learned how to do was actually change WP login to WP Rust login. So like you can rename that file, and then it broke because WordPress is looking for that file called WP-login. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to reinstall the core files of WordPress, and then it worked again. So what that taught me is if I ever have a problem, here's where I can start from zero. Here's, this is always my jumping off point. And I think when you look at it like that, like you can mess things up 1,000 times, but as long as you have a backup or a fresh copy or the copy before you change shit. If you have that, you can always reinstall it and start from zero again. And that was one of the first things I ever learned in WordPress.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, like I always encourage people. I think I've said this a million times on WaterCooler stuff, but like I encourage people to understand how backups work first, because when you're gonna break something at some point. It's not if, it's when. But you need to understand how to restore your site and get it back to yesterday or 2 days, and then from there, I think you need to start learning about how plugins add functionality into WordPress, and then you start learning about themes. Because I think too many people start learning about themes first, and then they get on this kick of, well, if I want to kick a cupcake shop, I need a cupcake theme, where you could take a blog theme and download the cupcake plugin and turn it into a cupcake. So I always say learn backups, plugins, then themes.
That would be a good blog post, Russ.
Coming out on bridgetwiller.com. I'm going to guest post.
Hey, you know how to find me. You could definitely guest post.
And see, that's
I know a guy who knows the guy is what you're saying.
And so what Russ is saying here is that even if you're not thinking about the functions that make up the functions, actual PHP functions that make up WordPress, just knowing which files you need to edit in order to do this the right way, you'll quickly start editing a theme that exists, and then it updates, and then you go, where'd all my updates go? And then you're like, oh, I need to learn about child themes. And then you make a child theme, which is dead simple.
Which is still something that happens to this day. So I work with this support company, and we have people coming in all the time, and they're like, hey, can you update our theme for us? And I'm like, I'm not going to touch that. And they're like, well, why not? Well, first of all, I didn't build it, and I don't know, like, okay, you're using Divi, and I love Divi, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what has been changed since you downloaded it until you came to our company. So we're not going to touch it, but we can give you an idea of how to go about updating it. But, we give people advice. But that's why I always suggest to people, learn how WordPress works, and then plugins, and then themes, because then okay, this theme I'm not so dependent on this theme.
Kind of like a division of labor, Russ.
Well, it's like a T-shirt, right? So like you can change your T-shirt all day long if nothing breaks. But imagine like you have a small T-shirt and you put it on a big guy. Now it's broken because the size of the guy broke. What I'm trying to say is I'm comparing things, and if you know a certain way of how WordPress works, it's less scary. I gave a talk in Minneapolis about the difference between plugins and themes. And there's no difference. Literally, I promise you, there's no difference. The only difference between a plugin and a theme is the time of execution. If you look at the way WordPress is loaded, plugins in the plugins folder are loaded from pluggable.php, and then your parent, and then your child. Other than that, it doesn't matter if you put code in a plugin or code in the theme. It doesn't matter. So the only difference between the two is the exact time when they're being loaded. And it's like a billionth of a second difference. So, I mean, the difference between this folder and this folder is a billionth of a second.
So Peter in the chat saying, one's named plugin, the other one's named theme. I think the thing is that it's more than that, because it's dealing with the fact that you shouldn't be putting functionality in a theme unless you absolutely have to. And the functionality should exist in the plugin and only the plugin, because there's no reason why you should have any type of crazy functionality happen. Like you shouldn't have
a Google Analytics code put in the in the header PHP file.
No. That's one of those things where that's maybe okay, like, because you can always re-add it to the header PHP. But
not everybody can always re-add it. Then you've got to get a dev when you take a site over.
Yeah, but
somebody put it in the header instead of making it a plugin, because they have an aversion to plugins.
This is something I learned on WaterCooler, is that Brandon Dove said that the difference between a plugin and a theme is just the directory in which you're putting it in. Because you can create another folder called, this thing, and as long as you know how to hook into the code, you can create, your plugin in this other folder. Like,
Right.
WordPress didn't create this thing like plugins have to go in plugins. They just decided that it's easier to put them all in one bin and separate the two. Like, you literally could put your, like, that's when the must-use folder came in, right? Like, must-use
Right.
plugins. It's still a plugin, but now it's just in a different place called must-use. Like, there's no difference between plugins and must-use other than you can't turn one of them off.
See, and that's where like people that are PHP developers that have used, some other type of, not even a CMS, but just some other framework or some other
Coding
whatever.
Coding is a good example.
Yeah, they go in there and then they're like, oh, this is a bunch of PHP, sweet. And then they find the one PHP file that is finally showing, an open head, tag, and they're like, oh, this must be the first file that opens up. Okay, I need to start editing this. And then they start editing the file, and then they add all this functionality, all this stuff. And then they look back and they're like, oh, this was the index file of like the root directory of WordPress. Like, why am I editing stuff in here?
No.
They don't realize that they're editing stuff in something that has some rules.
Well,
and knowing the rules is probably one of the most important parts of this, because you need to know what happens when things break, and when they do break, how are you going to fix it? And then what was the correct way of going about it?
Order of operations.
Yes.
Heck yeah, order of operations.
So I used to work for the National Weather Service, and so the amount of, there's one file, and it's nothing but require and then this other file, or request and this file. So like the homepage might be index.php, but the actual code might be like 7 folders down inside of a file called like get.php. But you think that it's happening on the index file, but it's really happening, so just because it's called plugins doesn't mean it has to be loaded from there. It's just the way that WordPress works is how I was getting at it. And when you start learning WordPress from that angle, it starts becoming less scary.
Yeah. So for the people that are 40 minutes in saying, how does this have to do with leveling up? It basically continual education.
Well,
that continual education and proving that, demonstrating that in whatever way that we can, whether it's writing or speaking at WordCamps or committing to core, being in the Slack channel, whatever, that gives us more exposure as far as, changing our career options. Would you say that's fair statement?
Yeah, it's really fair. But I mean, when you look at like leveling up, I think that, before you learn how backups, plugins, and themes work, you're just this guy who's like, I know how to go in and edit a post, or I know how to go in and like update this thing to make my image turn blue to green. And, you're like, I'm on top of the world. I know how WordPress works. And then you're like, hey, go add this custom meta box. And you're like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, there's your mileage is always going to vary. I will say that. But I think when you're very curious, like I am, you start reading tutorial after tutorial, and then you find yourself reading 1,250 a week about how to do something simple like count. Like when you start reading about how things work, you're like, I'm actually kind of impressed with how WordPress went from this little tiny thing to now it's fueling entire applications.
So James is in the chat is saying that you should have an understanding of code and the WordPress way, but he would say there's more to leveling up than development, and I would completely agree since I am not a developer.
So I have this blog post coming out very soon about this topic, James, and what it is we have a lot of clients who come to us and they say, we need your help. And I'm like, great, can you explain to me how your site works? And they're like, no. And I'm not talking about the code. I'm talking about, okay, you start at the home page and you go to shop and you add something to your cart and then you check out through PayPal. There's people that have these websites and they can't even explain that. So if you can't explain that to me, if you can't understand WordPress in the sense of, how you get people from your homepage to putting money in your pocket, then I think you're still suited to have a WordPress site, but I think you need to stop learning about Snooki and how her cookies work, and you should learn a little bit about your website.
And the purpose of it, which is to hold content, which I will never stop saying now.
It's totally about content, first and foremost.
Content management system. Content is the first thing in CMS. So, and you forget there's like a whole reason for it to exist. Because a lot of times, and I love my devs. You know I love my devs.
Can we make t-shirts that say I love my devs?
Yeah, I will with my unisex 2X. Unisex 2X.
That could be a Women Who WP thing. See,
well, I do love my devs. I'm just saying.
I'm helping them with merch. That's all I'm saying.
That doesn't mean that they're necessarily good at the overall purpose of a site for a particular, like, to be the person who can do the development and understand the marketing purpose. That's an amazing person in my mind, because it's easy to specialize in e-commerce or something, but somebody else sells on the whole. But like a lot of times, that's why you have a team at the front end, the back end, the salesperson, the marketing. They all get together. They make a wireframe. They're making this happen. It's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
So when you have one freelance guy and he has to make that happen on his own, that could be frustrating. But also, if he can do it, that's an amazing thing to me, because that takes a person who can think about something at a really high level, strategy wise.
Well, so the advantage to having a team versus being one guy is, if I left tomorrow, you have no idea how this site works. I mean, somebody like myself or Jim can eventually read the code and suss some things out and figure out, oh, okay, I know what this guy was doing. But when you have a team, I leave, and Web Dev Studios can still be a company because they have Brad and Corey and everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about what John Lockie's saying.
John, just
I
Locke.
hope I pronounced Locke. Sorry,
okay.
I always pronounce it Lockie. I'm Canadian apparently today. What's in the booth? So, so he's talking about theme forest stuff. I don't want to discourage anybody from theme forest, because I do think that it is a good way to find out how some things work. But the problem with theme forest, and I'm going to say this in the general tone, is that there are no standards when it comes to the way that themes are built.
Yep. Or updated.
Well, it's recommended that you do it this way, but some people don't know how to code in classes. They only know how to write PHP, or they don't know how to write entire libraries. They just know how to use, jQuery. So the thing with Theme Forest is that I don't like that they don't tell you how something is built. When I look at this theme that's for a cupcake shop, is it raw HTML in a page? Is it a series of pages? Is it done with widgets? Is it done with custom tables? Can we start calling you Bridget the widget? Oh my God, can we start doing that?
Oh my God.
That just came to me. Anyways, but they don't tell you how this theme is built. So then you pony up $50 and you're like, I don't know widgets, and this whole thing is ran on widgets, so you kind of feel discouraged. And that's all I'm going to say about Theme Forest.
Yeah, it is discouraging in some regards, but I think it's knowing what you're getting, because there are some really great devs that are using Theme Forest because they don't want to run their own marketplace, and they know that the marketplace on Theme Forest is great, so they're going to run after it and go, this is where all the money is, so I'm just gonna throw my stuff on here and call it a day. And then those guys at some point will go, well, you know what? I can make more money by not giving a cut to these guys. All right, I'm going to start my own thing.
Yeah.
And so, and you've seen plenty of those themes and plugins that have done that. But you've seen there's still some that are on there that are still the ones that I have to buy every single time I build somebody's site, because this is the one place that I can get this thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at something like Studio Press, which I love Genesis. You know that their homepage, or whatever the front page template is 99% of them are ran using widgets. It's a widgetized area called like front page 1 or front page title or upper right hand. So I know that when I go to a framework like Genesis, no matter what child theme I use, it's still going to run on widgets. That's the difference that I'm trying to compare here, is that you know by going to this place what you're going to get versus going to this place of like I always compare it to like what are they? I always call Theme Forest like a swap meet.
Oh, because you don't know what you're getting. You don't know if it's hot.
No, it's totally like
it's all legit.
No. So I compare it to
it's legit.
I compare it to a swap meet because you go to someone's garage sale, aka their GitHub.
Right.
You download this thing from them, and then you turn it into this thing, and you don't have a store yet, so you're going to sell it at this flea market or this swap meet, and then hopefully if you sell enough of those, you can turn it into a brick and mortar kind of thing. So I always call Theme Forest a swap meet.
That would be a really good blog post.
Bridget, write it up.
Yeah, right.
Do it.
She's just going to write these things down later. It's okay.
Oh, my God. I don't have to. Jason will put it in the show notes.
Bridget, I told you, I give you so much content that you seriously, like, you don't have to know code to go and write that article, Bridget.
I know.
You could be taking on the tavern right now with all the stuff that Russ is throwing out here.
Oh, God. That was a little gossipy thing, wasn't it?
I think...
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
I'll touch the tavern all day long because...
Oh, I wasn't talking about anything related to what happened recently or anything like that.
No,
I'm just saying that you could write as much content.
I'm on Twitter and I see.
No. So I used to read 1,250 articles a week, not because I had to reach that number. I would just go and read, 2 articles on WP Candy, 2 articles over on WP Tavern, 2 articles over on WP Beginner, 2 articles over on Woo Themes. Like, I would start reading these things, and so I think the easiest way to start leveling up is just by reading what people like myself and Bridget and Jason, they blog. But so here's the catch to that, is that when you're looking for code and it says copy and paste this code into your theme, don't do that.
Right. I know that you're not supposed to do that. Except
No. You can do that, but my suggestion is to go and copy that code on a development site, not on your live website.
Okay, so I did that actually, only because Postmatic told me to. Because so I use Postmatic for my commenting system. I love that. I love Postmatic. And so, but one of my friends was saying there's no labels. Like the form has no labels, so they didn't know where to put stuff. They didn't know what form was for email or name or website or what. And so just because how I work with Give, and I know that the style is inherited from the theme, I wrote to Jason Lemieux on Go Postmatic on Twitter, and I said, I feel like this is a theme issue. Do you have a known problem with Hemingway? He goes, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Paste this in your theme, and I did it. It worked. And I was so excited.
Well, so the reason why he said paste this into the theme is you were probably looking for some code that depended on some kind of support tag, like you need a support tag to do widgets or to do shortcodes. So you were probably trying to do something like that, and you needed to add that theme support, which makes sense. But you can drop that theme support into a plugin and activate it just as easily.
Oh, really?
Well, so Bridget, this is...
So because I know what's going to happen now is when Hemingway updates, I'm going to lose that. I know that. Because now I know that.
Yeah.
So I favorited the tweet so I could go back and look.
Oh, are we going to get Bridget to make her own functionality plugin? This is going to be awesome.
So Bridget, what I want to tell you is this, okay? This is one of the easiest ways to learn WordPress, and this is coming directly from Pippin Williamson through me. Okay,
He's channeling him.
Okay, so Pippin Williamson taught me that it's much easier to put things into a plugin than it is into a theme, because when your entire contact form works in a plugin and your contact form breaks, you know exactly where to go to look. If your contact form breaks and it's in a theme, it might be in the functions, it might be in contact PHP, it might be in sidebar, it might be in an assets folder. Debugging a theme is a lot harder than just going and getting rid of that contact plugin and replacing it with another contact plugin. So themes have way less benefits, or I should say plugins have more benefits than themes ever will. And
because you can divide and conquer, you could just disable them all and then enable and see which one is the culprit.
yeah, you're like, well, okay, I don't know what the problem is, so let me deactivate all my plugins and then activate them one at a time, and you're like, now I know what my problem is. Where if it's a theme issue, you have to deactivate the entire theme and activate 2015 or something, and that doesn't help you solve your problem, because all you're going to learn is that it's a theme issue.
Right. Especially when you turn it back on and then all your widgets are out of whack because the guy who coded the theme didn't know what he was doing and made all the sidebars whacked out.
Yes.
Oh, that hasn't happened or anything. But,
I do love, though, that so back in the day, you used to change themes and all your widgets were just gone.
Right.
And now the majority of them will, like, if you have one called sidebar, and you have another theme that has sidebar, a widget area, sometimes they'll stay and sometimes they won't. But for the most part, they will. Your widgets will go into an area called not using, or it's kind of like that limbo area, and then you can just drag them back. That's
right.
That's,
right. I've done that.
Right, but like back in the day, like 7 years ago, you changed themes, and if you didn't save them to that area first, yeah, you're up a creek, man. You're done. But I think that that's a very good example of you don't need to learn code, Bridget, to understand that WordPress works in this specific way.
Yeah.
And that's because the theme doesn't support this.
For me, I think I'm much more likely to make a child theme than I am making a plugin.
Well, so I implore you, Bridget, to I implore you to go and watch anything on WordPress.tv from John Hawkins about child theming. Because I was at one point in my career, Bridget, where I didn't know child theming, but I sat in a talk about child theming, and when I got to that point in my career, I was like, oh, John said you have to do this. I remembered that. And I think that's another easy way to start leveling up, is just thank you.
that's a weird looking iPad.
Jason, that's called the Moleskine iPad.
Here's the thing. When you write things down, there's a different process that happens in your brain. It's totally different. I remember where I wrote it.
I can write things down, Bridget.
Oh, I see how it is. It's just writing it down. I don't need to find it. I don't remember Vegas Geek child theme.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's weird is I can't find a single website that has a list of current web hosts that have staging servers built in. None of this you got to make your own subsite or any of this junk.
Yeah.
But literally a list of hosts, not just one. I mean, I know all the big ones, but I haven't found a site that just has a big list that says, here's all the ones that have staging servers built in.
There you go.
Well, so
darn any. I can't find
Somebody
one.
needs to write one.
No.
They do.
So here's the thing, Bridget, that's your next blog post. Go and do it tomorrow.
Wait, I just wrote a really
I don't care. You have no excuse. You have no excuse. There's no
you have to go or something.
So here's the thing, Bridget, is that any web host can have a staging site, because theoretically you can just create a subdomain called staging.mysite.com.
Oh.
So you can create yours. The difference is you have to move the database and all the files and everything over. But WP Engine gives you a one-click button that says move all my shit. So
Yep.
So I think
I will say one time that didn't work. FYI.
Well, so I think, Jason, why it doesn't exist is because you can make that argument that any host, Bluehost, HostGator, could theoretically have a staging site, and you can use a plugin like WP Content Sync or something.
So now that Bridget is no longer a newbie, Bridgetable cannot be the thing that is like the lowest of the lowest rung.
Yeah.
It needs to be like newbieable. It needs to be something that like anybody who just walks in goes like, I want to break my website. What do I do?
I am still in Bridgetable land. Okay.
No, you are. It's just going to keep going with you. That's the thing.
Well, Morton said that. Morton Rand Heinrichsen. Is that what his name is? Okay. He gave that talk about empathy at WordCamp Europe, and he said, I don't know if WordPress is easy anymore. It was easy when I did it 10 years ago. It's not, but I've been doing it for 10 years, so therefore I do not know if it's easy anymore.
Well, okay, so here's that argument, Bridget, is that anytime you don't get in on the ground floor, you're always going to be playing catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give you that, okay? I will give you that jQuery was much easier when it first came out, where there were 12-year-olds on YouTube talking about jQuery in front of a Google building. But now, if you want to go learn jQuery, it's much harder. I will give you that. But if you join meetups and you ask people, or you even start with something like WP Beginner,
mm-hmm.
you can start catching up very quickly. Because you know that you should do backups first, and then plugins, and then themes. When you follow that small little method,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't become as scary anymore.
No, this is true. That's true about anything.
This little upstart called Maintain with 2 N's. They don't know how to spell. But they did this great post about how to create a staging site for WordPress. Go check it out.
And the people that wrote that are smart people.
Yeah.
And I currently work there, is all I'm saying.
Allegedly. Awesome. Yeah. You allegedly work there?
No,
I didn't know anything about those people until you started working there.
So Jason, here's something maybe you didn't know about me. So I had this idea for WordPress support many years ago, in 2012. I did not know Shane Sanderson when he started Maintain. So I started this thing called Geek Street. So I'm at the Las Vegas WordPress meetup, and I'm getting ready to present this brand new thing called WordPress support. I didn't create WordPress support, by the way. I'm just saying that I came up with an idea for a company to support. Well, so minutes before I went on stage, John Hawkins goes, hey, my buddy Shane Sanderson has this service called maintain.com where you can get WordPress support. And I went, oh, like...
Oh my gosh.
But so we both know John Hawkins. That's what we have in common. But we don't know each other personally. We do now. But at that time, 2 different people had 2 different ideas that were very similar. Just the order of operations were different.
Yeah.
And so Shane and I, we were going to different WordPress meetup groups on Facebook and posting our links. And I would let him post first, so mine would be above him. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Shane and I used to play games like that all the time.
Bridget, that article you just posted was awesome.
About NASA?
That was that was such a good article.
That came from Matt Cromwell. And I was like, are you kidding me? NASA uses WordPress? Maybe NASA will start their shuttle problem again.
So Bridget, that's another good topic. Do you know how to view the page source? Do you know how to right-click? Okay.
I don't know how to know if they're on WordPress.
Okay, so here's an easy, simple solution, okay? Number 1, go to any.com in the world and do /WP-admin.
And if it works...
they're on WordPress.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, that doesn't mean they're not on WordPress.
They changed it.
It means see, look what you know already, okay? So here's the other thing, though, Bridget. You right-click on the page, and you view the page source.
Okay, I know how to view the source.
Okay, and then you do a find, Control F or Command F if you're on a Mac, and you type WP-content. And if it shows up, you know that or you look for.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I can have an HTML site and have a folder called themes, and I can have an HTML site and a folder called plugins. So that doesn't make a WordPress. But when you look for WP content, WP-content, that's usually one of the easiest ways to suss out if they're running WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
And I just taught Shada Toriabi from WP Engine this, and it blew her mind. She was like, because she would always write me, and she'd be like, Russ, what theme is this company using? And I'd be like, hold on, And so, you start figuring it out. But, it's just, you look for WP content /themes, and you're like, oh.
Really?
Yeah. So when you store a theme in the themes folder, it actually goes into bridgetwillard.com/WP-content /themes/BridgetWillard, because that's the name of the folder or whatever it is, right? So if they're using Divi, it's in bridgetwillard.com/WP.
Oh, it works.
See?
bridgetwillard.com WP content themes Hemingway, which I already.
Bridget, you just learned something sick. Now you know your site's running on WordPress. I hope you know that already, but.
Well, I do. I just wanted to check on something I knew was for
So, Bridget, go to Wheaties.com and do the same thing. And now you know Wheaties.com is running on WordPress.
Oh, that's how you figured that out. I didn't know how to know it.
We also do support for them.
Oh.
And then, like with anything, there's always a calculator that's been made. And if you go over to what WP theme is that, it'll tell you which WordPress theme is being used there.
Oh, it's right there anyway. That's the first thing you see. Style sheets, text, CSS, Wheaties.com, WP content themes, Wheaties. They're using the Wheaties theme.
So all that means is that their theme is in a folder inside of WP content
called Wheaties.
And then, so do this with Bridget.
From great knowledge comes great power.
So Bridget, so Bridget, do this, okay? Do this. Go to Wheaties.com / and then type this in. Do WP-content /themes. Or /themes /Wheaties. And then do /style STYLE CSS, and it's going to tell you.
No way.
Yeah. So Bridget, in order for a theme to work, in order for a style sheet to style things, it has to be viewable. It has to be readable. And so if it's readable, it means that it has a URL on the internet somewhere, and it has to be visible. So you can click, Bridget, on any one of those things inside of the header of the source and go see the code. And so if you want to take that code, you can just copy and paste and create your own file. Now you have that code.
Or if you just want their colors.
That's what I'm saying.
Hideous orange. Wow.
You just learned something sick.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight now. No, actually that happened because I went to the meetup and Sarah, we're way out of topic, but we might as well just stay there. Sarah Weefall was talking about child themes. And she goes, it's just a style.css file in a different folder. What? Shut up. And she goes, and then you just need the PHP and you get it from the codex and it's here. So I did it, but my desktop server wasn't working. I still haven't figured out why it's not working on my computer right now. So I did it and I just changed the font size and some colors just to see if I could do it. And it worked. And then I uploaded it and I saw it in my themes and I switched it and I went, oh my God. But it messed up, of course, all my Beaver Builder stuff. So I turned it off.
So let me blow your mind again, Bridget. Okay. So you can actually, that's how I started learning that the new WPEngine.com was built on Genesis, because you view the source, you look for WP content themes, and then I think it's called WP2 or something, /style.css. And so it actually, if it's a child theme, it will actually say template equals, and then it will say Genesis. So now you can look at that style sheet from Wheaties, and you can look for something that's called template, and it will let you know if it's a child theme or if it's a parent theme.
Oh, interesting.
So in a matter of 30 seconds, you can tell if someone's on WordPress, what theme they're using, and if it's a child theme. And then you can do the same thing. So Bridget, in the source, look for plugins, like WP-content/plugins. And now it's going to show you all the plugins that Wheaties is running. Not
So
all
this
of them.
is your life now because you do support, so you're looking for the culprits.
No, because I can just log into the back end of WordPress and I know what plugins they're using. But what I'm saying is,
unless you crash it or something, right?
Right, but so what I'm saying though is this, Bridget, is that if you just because it's the style sheet.css doesn't make it a theme, because I can load that style sheet in a folder called my styles inside my theme, but I can enqueue that script. This is where my Twitter name comes from. But I can enqueue that script, and now my style sheet is in a complete different area other than the theme, but I can enqueue it to make my theme style this way.
Yeah. Okay.
So just because WordPress says do it this way doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
So there's a renegade situation.
That's what I always thought cowboy coding used to mean.
Oh, okay.
You know, because like you're doing it in a different way, not just because you're doing it on a live site, you're just changing stuff randomly on your live site. I always thought cowboy coding meant doing it other than the recommended way that most of the WordPress community.
The WordPress way.
Yeah. Yep. But so, I mean, even that, Bridget, tonight, you just leveled up. And it was that simple. You just Bridget, I am mentoring you from like 700 miles away. Is all
I know, you guys are both. Yeah, I know that. I recognize it. I give you credit.
And so
when I have conversations with people.
So for those of you, if I went too fast, you can always, watch this again.
Show.
Yeah, watch it later, which I recommend, and pause it and do /Wheaties/style CSS. But you can do that with anything, and you can, find out if it's on WordPress. Now there's like clever plugins that, hide my WP and stuff like that, which totally changes the games. But there's telltale signs. Like just because I rename WP content to like Jason Tucker themes or whatever, what Jason was saying is when you use a widget, it's probably called WP _ the widget or WP, like there's telltale signs, like even Genesis, even though you don't know it's a Genesis child theme, the class name, the style is probably called Genesis _ menu or Genesis _ nav. And you're like, holy shit, now I know they're using Genesis.
Okay, because it's a language thing. Like, somebody says soda pop, they're from the Northeast. Okay.
Yeah, so WordPress has its own soda pop language.
Yeah. Well, because Genesis is like its own thing inside of it. It's like a mini culture.
Right, but you're also getting into kind of like namespaces where you have like the developers are using a very specific prefix for things. So that way, when they sort by a list of files, they're able to see all of those files together because they all start with the same thing. Yeah. But then you start doing this so that way you're not colliding in with somebody else's code, and that your code can all coexist, hopefully, and no one comes up with some stupid name for something and they use the exact same stupid name.
You need to make a bumper sticker for that, Russ.
That's called what?
Redo the coexist religion one with different plugins. Instead of
and then there's some epic. Like weird one that's off to the side.
Get Reddit on that, because that would be hilarious.
So if you are going, and George from Jetpack will tell you, I'm rocking my Jetpack shirt.
Yeah, I have that shirt.
Anyway, so if you are getting into development, the first thing you need to know is that everything you build needs to be specific to you, because there are functions in WordPress called WP _. So if you start your function with WP _ title, you're going to break things because now you're loading two functions named the same thing.
So this is why you need to trust your developer. This goes back to the theme forest situation, right?
No, it's not even
that. Market.
It's not even that. You can suss out, okay, why is this broken? Well, is it named the same thing? Let's go and find out. That's one of those things, again, you don't need to know how it works, but, you can understand a function is called this, Let's search my entire thing for that same function. Oh, hey, there's a duplicate on this other file. Rename it. Your problem solved.
But if the codex is all online, then you know all the functions they use.
And WordPress is phenomenal at documenting things that are being used, things that are going to be ripped out, things that are coming up. They're phenomenal at documenting.
Yep, because they have to be.
Yeah.
Man, we jumped all over the place. I'm trying to figure out where we can use the metaphor I always use.
So do you want
me pick up that cart and put it back on the track?
I think it just went around a few times the mountain.
No, wait.
The point is, wherever you are, learn something new. Learn something that terrifies you.
I can bring this whole thing full circle. Okay? I can bring this whole thing full circle. Here's how it goes. This is my Howard Stern moment. You said it all. All right? So the whole idea to this whole thing is that WordPress, you think WordPress works in this specific strategic way, and that if you don't follow this guideline, it's going to break. So if you start learning on your own and you start reading that WordPress does it like this, but you can also do it like this, you can start understanding WordPress better. And that is the exact reason why you should start leveling up, is that here's how WordPress works, here's how you can F with it, and here's how you marry it all together. And I think when you look at it like that, that's going to be my phrase for the show. When you look at it like that, it's not so scary anymore. Because
fair enough, as Russ says.
Because you don't have to know, that it's called WP _ the title or something. You just have to know that there is something that lets you show the title easily. And then when you look
at a database, like we probably just are more afraid of it than we should be, is what I'm getting out of this, because it's just a database.
Well, it's not even that. I think a lot of people scare themselves because they're like, oh, I was at a meetup and I heard, our meetup is very guilty of doing this. We jump around a lot. I will talk about like the AMP project with accelerated mobile pages. And then Robert Gilmore will come and talk about Ajax. And then Kitty Lesby will come. She'll talk about like how to manage your content better. And then Ben Weiser will step in and he'll talk about like Genesis. So just those 4 things alone, you're like, holy shit, there's so much to learn about WordPress. And I think that scares people. And I'm guilty of doing this myself.
So your meetup, is it segmented by developer?
No, because I never want to tell somebody that this is an advanced or this is a beginner talk, because who the hell am I to say that this is beginner? Because just because I'm this, WordPress amazing dude that does these things, it's beginner because I'm, light years ahead of that? No. Technically, to Bridget, the title is advanced way beyond her WordPress years.
Oh, yeah.
So we ran WordCamp that way last year. I did not say this is advanced, this is beginner, this is the dev room. I just said simply, come and watch a talk and learn something cool. And when, a lot of people left our WordCamp going, I didn't know development was like that. Because, they would have never sat in the development talk.
Yeah.
Matt Cromwell would have never sat in a beginner talk had I labeled it beginner. But because Matt Cromwell did, he learned how to build a new feature into GIF because he learned from the people. And I love Matt Cromwell. I'm not putting him down in any ways. What I'm saying is,
no, because you're so far ahead, you don't think about what the new users think about anymore. That's not your thing.
No, it's not that. It's that I'm a developer. I'm going to go hang in the developer room. When if you're a developer and you put a product out, you need to go sit with the people who
your
use
customers.
Yes, and
imagine that.
It's the easiest trick in the book, but yet people are like, well. This was on Silicon Valley earlier this year, so spoiler alert. But so their product, the developer sent it to other developers, and they're like, you have an amazing product. And then they release the product to the public, and the public's like, this is too hard. And it's because he didn't go and ask the people who he's trying to sell.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
That's you just described every developer out there. They've all built things that are just for them and nobody else, and then they didn't realize that they didn't think, oh, I wonder if anybody else would actually use this thing, and no one ever would. So
this is why we need a coffee table book of what developers say. What the hell do you mean you don't know what a
It's gonna be on
hamburger menu
GitHub.
is?
It's gonna be on GitHub.
Yeah, so that's full circle, is that it's not scary to learn WordPress. It does seem overwhelming at times, but you start with little chunks. You start with, just read something today that, it's like child themes, and then learn how child themes work, and then learn how plugins work with child themes, and then you're going to set yourself downriver.
Does it ever happen that the themes...
Tabs! Always tabs!
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true in real life for anything.
Yeah.
So
am I done? Is that it?
I think we pretty much killed the show.
Well, so one of the questions that was in the chat that we saw pretty early on was, are we going to talk about design at all, or UX or UI? The thing is that UX and UI is a different layer to what we're talking about here. That's more of the presentation layer side of things when it comes to this. Now, that doesn't mean that's not WordPress. It's totally WordPress, because you're putting jQuery in there, you're putting some other framework in there, there's all these different things you can add into it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's WordPress directly.
Well,
it's a supporting technology for that particular site.
But I will say that it is important to start learning to some degree, even as a developer, because it's another way to level up your WordPress skill, is that now I know how to write code to match this UI that's going on in this theme. But
not everyone is a unicorn like Devin Walker is, where he can both design as well as develop.
I thought you were going to say Michelle Schulp, because Michelle Schulp and unicorns are like peas and carrots, dude.
Yeah.
No, but when I heard that Devin's a designer as well, I was like, what?
Yeah.
How? No, you can't have both of the things. Darn it! You get to pick one or the other. You don't get both.
Yeah, I mean, but just for the record, this is episode 40, and this is the most advanced developer talk I think we've ever had.
So my question,
kind of
we talk a lot about marketing and everything. So I don't know, Peter might be new. It's not always like this.
So Bridget, here's my question though. This is the question that I want to ask you, Bridget. At what point during this conversation did you feel you were not qualified to be in this conversation?
Zero points.
So
I feel like when I'm with the two of you, I don't feel like I'm not allowed to be here, because that's how you guys have a good sense of hospitality. If it were other developers,
okay,
I'm not exactly going to show up at the developer meetup next week or whatever. But
wait, hold on. I asked that wrong. At what point in our conversation did you feel something was over your head? Like,
no, because it was all still strategic, so I got it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I have 9 months. I've been working for WordPress. I have been reading insane amounts and writing insane amounts of articles. So, as I said, I jumped into the deep end of the pool, people. I'm treading water over here.
Well, she's like, I got my WordPress floaties.
Exactly. I mean, I think I'm almost ready to take some of those off, but I'm not.
So the only point I was trying to make, Bridget, is that when you walk into a room and someone says, here's what this plugin does, you know that the word plugin means additional or subtractional functionality.
Functionality, yes.
And when someone says, let me show you this theme, you know that it means front-end design.
Front-end development. Uh-huh.
Right. So now that this whole talk is less scary, because they say, put it in your theme. No matter what, it's going to be output on the front end. Some way, somehow, if it's a plugin, it's going to happen in the back end before it gets to the front end. When you think of it like that, now plugins are no longer scary.
Yeah.
Right here, it says Chris Lemma. and it says
Nashville.
Nashville currently has no women that have submitted talks in Nashville.
Oh, that's too bad. We should get Brianna
That's not true. That's not true. Dustin Meza is there.
women.
I love Dustin Meza so much. So yeah.
Waka waka waka. Now you gotta say I'll be here all week. Try the veal. Thank you very much.
Try the veal scallopini is what it is.
Yeah, people like WP Engine, Pagely, and Kinsta.
Pantheon.
Also, Media Temple. I guess give Media Temple some love.
Flywheel.
But you can also do local staging on desktop server, and we love desktop server.
So
yeah, we do.
Oh, I am the biggest advocate that I know. You know, saying that in kind of a cocky way, but I always tell people, listen, Jason, if you want to test some code, come break it on my site before you break it on your site. Because the last thing I ever want to do is give Bridget advice and it breaks her site and I no longer become a credible source to her. Because it can happen that quick. Hey, paste this into your functions PHP file and it breaks. And you're like, well, that site's dead to me.
Yeah, but I would think that now because now I know it could be a conflict with the theme. It could be a conflict with other plugins.
But had I never told you that and you just read an article that I wrote about WordPress, Rust is dead to me now. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not that black and white, but some people probably are.
I don't mean you specifically. It's because you're on the show and I know Jason knows better is all I'm saying.
I think I can evaluate people, but I don't like cut them off. They can make a few mistakes.
Yeah.
But I also know that that's why I said the coexist would be hilarious. Because that's the whole thing is things that it's like Legos. I mean, it's really DIY. WordPress is so DIY.
No, Drupal is like Legos.
I mean,
in a bad way, though.
In a very bad way. Modules was the dumbest thing in the world.
Okay, well, I mean, so maybe my analogy broke down, but my point is it's not going to just work. It's not Squarespace.
No. That's why WordCamp Phoenix coming up in October 1st and October 2nd. Buy your tickets now because they're going to sell out fast. Their logo or their theme this year is actually Legos. Because
it's cute.
It's all building pieces. And I think WordCamp Pittsburgh or WordCamp Boston, I think they have a Legos theme too. I'm not sure. I was talking to Raquel Cody Langefield's wife.
Langefield.
Yeah. I was talking to her in Orange County when we were at Steve Zenget's house. And she's like, yeah, we're doing Legos. And I was like, oh, so is this other camp. And she was like, what?
Yeah. Well, it's a cute idea.
No, it's are you kidding me? It's adorable. But the idea is again, if hers are called WP_Legos and yours are called Bridget_Legos, it won't break.
Right.
If they're both called WordCamp Lego, it's gonna break.
I wonder if they're gonna have a WAPU special Lego WAPU guy.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Well, I know how to find out because James Tyron would tell us.
Yeah, now we have the inside scoop.
So of all things WAPU.
Orlando, that's what it is. Okay. Yes, James Tyron, thank you. So Bridget, 3 years ago, one of those two, plus one, minus one, they actually at Pressanomics had a WordPress logo built all out of Legos. I'll find the picture.
Nice.
I'll find the picture and I'll tweet it out. But
that was expensive.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it was cool though, dude.
Some poor little kid sitting there going, "Why did you take mine?"
I think that's cool. That would be fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love it.
Talk about an off-screen hobby, though. That's like a big commitment. You can't offshore that.
No, it's the other way around. The guy or whoever's that's going to be building it has to come to your house to build it.
So for the poor sods who are still with us an hour and 27 minutes later, let's sum this up like you do best, Jason.
Whoa, what the heck is going on outside? Something major is going on outside. I'm so sorry.
Bridget, check your Twitter in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
And you will see the WordPress the WordPress Lego logo.
Lego logo. Say that a few times.
WordPress Lego logo. WordPress Lego logo.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then everybody right now, go follow You Too Can Be a Guru, and she will retweet it.
You too could be a guru.
So listen.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I wrote my own theme song.
So listen, Jason. You said it all. You've done it all.
I've said it all.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, bad. You know what? I didn't talk very much. I talked a little bit during the beginning, but it was definitely the Russ and Bridget show, and I was super excited because I never get to watch my own shows when they're live, so it was really good to be able to see it.
We talk too much.
No, this is why I want Bridget to come and speak at WordCamp Vegas when it goes down, because tonight I think there are a lot of people, not just tonight, every day, but I don't want to generalize, but I'm saying I think a lot of people are in Bridget's boat where they know a lot about content, or they know a lot about marketing, or they know a lot about social media, but how do you adapt that into WordPress, or how do you become successful as Wheaties when it comes to social media? What plugins are they using? I just taught you how to go to Wheaties, find out what they're using, and now you can go and use that plugin or theme or whatever and become just as successful. So I think everybody just learned at the expense of Bridget.
Yeah, that's the show theme right here.
That should be the title. Learn at the expense of Bridget.
Oh, man.
Bridget the Widget.
That's me.
I'm going to call you that from now on.
That's okay. You could call me that. You can
stuck
call me
with it.
Flower if you want to.
You're stuck with it, bub.
All right, folks, that's it.
Thanks for
End
joining
of the show.
us on
It's 9 o'clock.
Jason,
Yeah.
are we going to stay? Is this permanent? Is this a permanent?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens when I hit upload to YouTube. If it doesn't work, then yeah, we'll come with something
be a
else.
web dev. I love it.
Yep. And also, yeah, Mario in the chat was saying, well, what about the name of this? So we're working on that as well. I have some lined up. We'll see how it goes. That's it, folks. Go over to the website, WPwatercooler.com. Click on the links to subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you probably are later on, make sure you go click on the little thumbs up button. It's located down the bottom of the thing here. And if you go down below the description, there's a comment section. Feel free to leave a comment. Bridget actually reads those and answers them.
Yes, I do.
Unlike me. Unlike me.
Jason, can you start being the airline stewardess of YouTube videos where it's like, you have 2 buttons this way, 2 buttons this way?
Folks, see y'all later. You have a good rest of your night. Talk at you later. Bye.